Hi, and welcome to Moms on a Mission. I'm Julie Wolslayer. I'm here with my co-host Miriam Shaw. And today we have on a very special guest. He knows all about functional fitness and is an expert in intermittent fasting. So let's roll.
Ryan has been helping individuals with both training and lifestyle support for 8 years. His passion is educating people of this community on health and exercise and empowering individuals to make a change. It's a wonderful journey for him, and everybody deserves to partake. Welcome, Ryan, to the show.
Welcome, Ryan. We're so glad to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, let's get started. First question would be, how did you get interested in functional fitness?
So from a young age, I had quite a few, issues with the ankles, the knees, and things like that. And for me, I always wanted to be faster. People always told me that I ran slow when I played sports, but I've always been involved in sports. And I was looking for that way to address these functions of my muscles, my joints, and things like that. So ultimately, for me, it was trying to get connected to my body in a different way, as well as trying to understand my body in a different way, which led me to kind of being able to look at myself from a third person perspective and address my issues. But I found that I was able to articulate my joints and muscles in ways that helped me become better, become more functional. And I always wanted to take that and help other people as well. So for me, functional fitness is more about those things like going to pick up a box in the garage, right? Going to doing your dishes, even going on a walk with your dog. So functional fitness is much more than the weight room and aesthetic. And it's more about being able to own your movement and daily task that lead to this fluidity of movement that help you live pain-free.
Yes. And we talked earlier before the show, I do a lot of classes and we talk about functional fitness a lot in just our classes with our students. I work with a lot of elderly people. So we talk a lot about functional fitness, but you're teaching me more. And I love that. But sometimes people think about exercise, just running and doing weights and not really thinking about how that helps them in their daily life. And I love how you explained that.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, it was quite a journey because I had Osgood-Slaughters growing up, which is, the growth plates and the knee separates, and it's very uncomfortable. And it's common for a lot of growing teenagers to have these kinds of issues in their joints. And, there was never anybody that was able to address these things for you. You go to the doctor and they're like, yeah, there's nothing you can do about it. But there is, with the right education and the right help, so some of these little things that a growing boy or girl may encounter growing up through sports can be addressed if we take the time to break it down it down in a way that helps them understand their body. And that's what functional fitness is for me. Going back to that it's so much more than going to the gym.
Yes. It's a way of life, really.
Absolutely. You're trying to essentially understand who you are in the physical self, right?
How your body works.
Absolutely. And I feel like we've missed that mark, growing up for sure. And there needs to be more attention on that at a young age to help people move better in the long term, which will decrease surgeries and and appointments and things like that, and it'll make our population in our country healthier.
Yes. And actually our motto for our show is educate, awake, and activate. So I think you could really use that with healthcare as well, right?
Help us, Ryan.
That's perfect.
Well,
Absolutely.
Ryan, tell us what led you to open up your own studio.
Well, for me, I mean, it was an interesting time, when that first happened in 2020. I've always wanted to own my own studio for sure. I've always wanted to be a part of that. And, we encountered so many things so quickly at that point in time that I wanted to be able to stay connected to people through that time frame, right? So when that happened, it was, we got a call from won't disclose the gym, but we got a call and they said, don't come back to work. Right.
Mm,
And that was the big thing. And they didn't put a timeline on it, not anything like that. No conversations were had on the back end, on the front end, you name it. So at that point in time, it was just stay at home.
right.
That was it.
Mhm.
And we were sitting there kind of like, this is it. What is this about? So I took some initiative and I opened up a gym in my garage, right?
That's,
And I invited my clients and my neighbors to come work out with me during that time frame. And for me, it was such a fun time frame for being
yeah.
such a weird time frame,
Mm.
right? But it was exciting to be able to see my neighbors looking in the garage. What is this guy doing? What's he doing in here? And that was it filled me with joy at that point in time. And I noticed everybody having a good time. The whole community
Yeah.
was coming together there.
Mhm.
You need to
So
be there.
for me, that's what led to this. And it was kind of just intuition and wisdom that led me there.
Mhm.
Um, and it was such a great feeling to hear from God in that way and to
Mhm.
take
Yeah.
it that way. And then to be able to take that community and take it to a studio, which is just so natural, the whole process. And that's really how it happened. It was just an amazing experience to be able to go from this confinement of the corporation saying stay at home,
Right.
don't
Mhm.
do anything and wait to hear from us, and then to take it from a garage and then to take it to a studio where I have you know worked with more people than I could imagine.
Yeah.
It really makes me think of Romans 8:28 when the Lord says all things work together for the good for those who love
Yes.
God and are called according to his purpose. And I was part of that transition. I remember that. And it did seem so seamless. It's
Yeah.
amazing how God can just use things that the devil wants to harm us with, and he can turn it around for our good. And I think that's awesome.
Absolutely.
For sure. So how do you continuing on from that? So you started your own gym and during this crazy time, how is the current and present situation affecting your gym? The culture wars that we're kind of in right now. How is that affecting you?
Yeah, I mean that's always tough. I mean, you work with I work with people on both sides of the culture war, right?
Right.
So for me, it's you have people who handled it well,
Right.
and took it on and grew from it, and you also have people who were in fear,
Yes.
right? So the big thing for me, it was, I had several people who ultimately didn't want to go back to a gym, didn't want to go
Mhm.
to a setting where there was many people. And I had
Right.
people who were just happy to be with me training. But the big thing is this culture war is definitely it is still is, then and now, um difficult because there's this lack of recognition and ownership on one's
Right.
health,
Mhm.
and I find
Yeah.
that to be the hardest part about it, right? We've put our faith in government and
Mm,
things like that to help us dictate how healthy we are, right?
right.
Whereas it's solely up to us and to look within and take ownership of our own health. So
Yes.
Yeah.
that's what I found the biggest divide here is that people are more focused on things going on outside of their control rather than taking control of them for themselves
Right.
And of what
and
they can
acting
take
on it.
control
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. That seems to be the biggest thing, that separates the classes, right?
Yeah.
Being able to take control of the things that we can control and being able to not think about the things that we can't control.
Right.
And what was it like running a gym and having a studio in your garage, like during COVID? Like, what was that like for you? Was it uncomfortable? What was it like having it in your home? I'm curious what that
Yeah,
was
no,
like
for
for you.
sure. I mean, once again, that felt so natural to be able to walk downstairs and train out of the garage at that point in time.
Yeah.
And I felt very comfortable, but I felt like I was also being led, led
Yes.
by the Spirit and led
Yeah.
by
Yes.
God, and the
Yes.
fact that He gave me strength to,
Mm-hmm.
persevere through that. Um, so for me, there was, a couple occasions where it was hard,
Mm-hmm.
with select few people. Um, being in that environment. But most people were very open. I learned things about people that I never would have thought I've learned.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. There was such a different level of one-on-one than what I
Yeah.
was used to at Lifetime, where you walk into a gym and there's music blaring, there's people
Yes.
taking photos on their phone. A lot of people are not there to do work or to
Mm-hmm.
Right.
actually grow themselves. And when you step away from that and you are vulnerable in a garage with your
Mm-hmm.
client, you learn so much more about each other, and the
Yeah.
relationship can really become something great.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
That's good.
What have you found to be the biggest challenges during COVID for your clients? Was it weight gain? Was it anxiety? Was it a combination of both? What did you find to be the biggest challenges?
At that, as far as that goes, I I think there's such when you work with people, there's such an array of emotions and things that they
Yes.
personally went through. Um, I always just try to observe and listen,
Mhm.
and I would say the biggest thing that I really ran into was there was this precedent set, that to stay at home and not to really work on the things that
Mhm.
needed to be
It's true.
worked on. So there was anxiety,
Yes.
there was fear,
Mm-hmm.
um, there was lack, fear of the unknown and things like
Yes.
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
I saw all of that,
Things you probably had
from
never experienced before as a trainer, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
never have experienced that. Prior to COVID, I found that there people don't take as much responsibility for themselves as they need to, but
Right.
there was a recognition of that prior to COVID,
Yes.
and post COVID, and today still, I feel like you have this lack of responsibility aspect, but then you also have a lack of recognition of things that happened that formed your identity during those first several years that are
Yeah.
not being
Mm-hmm.
addressed,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. And one of the things that I had read on healthline.com and a couple of other places, reputable places, was that the average person gains somewhere between like 50 and no, not 50. I'm sorry, 15 and 35 pounds. Probably some people did gain 50 pounds, but
Probably.
did you
Mm-hmm.
see that in
Probably yes.
with your people? Was it that much weight? Because to me, that's quite a bit. Did you
Mm-hmm.
see that?
I think that is a reasonable number. Absolutely. I
Mm.
mean, there's definitely a select few, and I would go to say maybe more 30%, of my
Okay.
clients
Yeah.
probably saw that,
Yeah.
especially the first year going into this year number two.
Mhm.
I'm finally seeing year three, people wanting to get back to it,
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to note that getting back to it can't really happen. You have to have this new identity. We have changed, and that's
That's
okay.
Right.
right.
It's
Mhm.
important to look at what's happened and recognize the areas that you've changed
Yes.
in order to move forward and grow. Because we don't want to go back to 2019. We want to
No,
go. We
No,
want to go
we don't.
forward,
that's
right?
Right.
right. That's right.
Um, and it's important to understand that and just take some time to acknowledge the things that have happened
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
and take ownership of some choices that may have been made, not for the better or for the worse,
Right.
Yeah.
and to grow from it.
Yeah. Be kind to yourself.
Yes.
To get back on track.
Absolutely.
Well,
Exactly.
I was one of Ryan's clients who gained 15 pounds, and I'd already gained 15 pounds prior to COVID. So I had 30 pounds. And I remember Ryan talking to me about it. Just he's very kind, very patient, very gentle. And then finally, when I got on the scale in August after, the whole COVID shutdown thing, and I finally hit that number. Women know, moms know what that number is.
Right.
And I was done, and I asked him what I needed to do. And so I remember, Ryan, you had introduced me to intermittent fasting. And I was going to see for our audience if you could define intermittent fasting and then tell us why you chose intermittent fasting for me and why you choose it for your clients.
Right. So for me, intermittent fasting is a short-term fast throughout the day, right? And that's there's several options for intermittent fasting, right? There's a lot of different areas to it. And I know we're talking about your specific journey too. But intermittent fasting is so much more than just fasting, right? Intermittent fasting is basically taking time to yourself, right? Taking
Right.
a fasting period. You're giving back to you during that time frame, and you're not giving yourself away to materials, food, drinks, you name it, right? So the big deal is for fasting, you're looking at several different modalities and methods, and we have so just to say some traditional ones, right? We have a 12-hour fasting window, right? Daily, done daily.
Right.
And you're operating in a calorie restriction when you take on a fast, whether it be a 12-hour fast, a 14-hour fast, a 16-hour fast, a 24-hour fast, or 5 days eating, 2 days fasting a week.
Right.
So for fast, as far as the how to break that down, it's several short-term fasting periods that enable somebody to regulate their intake and produce calorie restriction, which eventually, if we can maintain that habit throughout, we will have a plethora of health benefits that come along the way.
That's good. And do you have intermittent fasting regimen for women versus men? Do you think there's any difference gender-wise?
There is a difference for sure. Men have shown to respond better to longer periods
Oh,
of
really?
fasting compared to women.
Okay.
There's it is so individualistic, fasting is, right? So like I don't ever like to just say here's a one program that fits all, because we need to know several things about the individual. We need to know where their mental health's at in that time frame. What are they using currently to cope, and things like that? What are some behaviors that they had in the past that they still have or they don't have? Are they really busy? Are they working, high amount of hours per week, per day, you name it? So there's a lot of pieces to consider,
Right.
and do we have hormonal imbalances and things like that?
True.
So, there's a big difference between the two. I would always recommend taking a journal daily, starting with a small fasting window, 12 hours, and take notes during it, right? Kind of try to understand yourself, because that's the ultimate goal of fasting is trying to understand who you are.
That's good.
You're trying to learn something about what it is you do daily that drives your behavior for the good or the worse, right? So I would always recommend that we start with a short window, and then we take notes. And as we progress through this journey, we increase that window and we keep going from there.
So yeah, I think, I think fasting can sound so intimidating for people in the beginning, but I like the way you're saying to take just some small steps. And I've always loved the idea of journaling and, writing down what you're eating or how you're feeling, or at certain times of the day. I can think it'd be very encouraging for people as they walk out that journey. Do you find that to be the case, that journaling for people really helps?
And journaling really helps. Absolutely. I feel like, the end game is to understand yourself so you can make a permanent change, and I feel like, going back to COVID and whatnot, we have extremes that have occurred, right? We had we had a way of life, right, that we were really accustomed to.
Yes.
We never we wanted change at that point in time, but we never really, we're so comfortable. Life, just rolling. And there was
very comfortable.
Need. There was no drive. There was nothing to drive us to change.
Right.
And I found that during COVID, I have several individuals who drove change based off of that experience.
Right.
They wanted to take personal ownership and they did, you
Good.
know, and they made big changes, and they understood themselves in a light that they probably never have. And we also had people that did not make those changes, right?
That
And
would
they
be me.
gained 25, 30 pounds, right? And you name it, things like that. And the big thing is when someone's gained that weight, they want it to come off really quick,
Right.
right?
Right.
And that can be done, but it's not sustainable,
No.
right? And that's the big piece. Start small
Yes.
and understand yourself and build that, you know, and you can get these little W's if you start small, these little wins that can become big deals later down the road.
Yes.
You
Making
don't want to
those
set
small,
it. Yeah.
yeah, no, so making those small changes is really a big deal. And I love the education piece that you talk about, because if we can educate ourselves about our bodies, about our diet, what works for us, then the big changes comes, just small steps along the way.
Absolutely. And that's where the journaling helps so much. I mean, you have to know what you're doing. And whether you're somebody who journals or you're somebody who, you know, meditates and thinks about it every night, you know, and takes a mental note, you have to be looking back and asking yourself, what is it that drives my behaviors? And what is it that is making me stop at Starbucks every single morning, you know,
point.
and whatever it may be.
Good point.
I mean, because if we're stopping for something like that, there's usually a bigger reason why you're stopping, you know?
Yes.
And being able to understand why you do those little things is what's going to enable you to be better.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, we're kind of coming to the end of this podcast.
Right.
It's been just so great, Ryan. I love the information that you've given to us. And I really think that education piece and talking about journaling, you know, maybe fasting for some people is a big jump, but it's really great information that you've given to us today. And so if you're thinking about intermittent fasting, I'd say read about it. Think about it, talk to your trainer, talk to your doctor, and then make that decision for yourself. And I think it'd be a great journey, because I think fasting is way more than just about weight loss. It's about making changes about your body and doing hard things.
It is.
Doing hard things. But if that seems really hard, I'm just going to give you a couple of other things. I think Ryan would agree.
Yeah.
My kind of 3 things I'd like to leave with the audience besides education piece and journaling, which are huge. So maybe it's 5. We're leaving with 5 today.
Yeah.
Which would be just to move more, just to move. Maybe you're not running a marathon. Maybe you're not training, but moving more. And then on diet, eat more fruits and vegetables. Eat more fruits and vegetables. You know, I mean, I tell people that all the time. Just what do you do? How do you do this? Eat more fruits and vegetables. And then my 3rd thing was drink more water. Drink more water. And if you do,
it's half your body weight in ounces, I think,
that's
is
pretty simple, right? Just move. Maybe get up out of your desk, walk, go to the park, walk. You don't even have to go to the park. Just walk in your neighborhood. Walk
Absolutely.
So, but
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan,
and that's what a lot of us, I think. Oh, you're right.
No, go ahead.
Go for it.
No, I was just going to say,
and that's where I think a lot of us, you know, we have to get back to understanding that we're not moving as much as we once were. Like you said,
so
I mean, we have to be able to know that, and we have to be honest with ourselves too, and to recognize that, you know, there was a point, you know, a select few people really did not do anything other than stay at home, you know, during these time frames. Right. And even though they might have been busy prior to that, they were moving more than they were during that point in time.
Absolutely. And some of it's just habit, and they just get out of the habit of working out or moving. So some of it just being more intentional.
For sure. Yes.
Well, we want to say thank you so much for being on Moms on a Mission. And we want to know if you'll come back and join us at a later date. We'd love to have you back on. Great.
Good.
Well, thank you so much to our audience. Yes, we would love that. Thank you so much to our audience for listening, and God bless.
Moms on a Mission is excited to partner with our friends at MyPillow. According to sleep experts and sleephealth.org, over 50 million Americans struggle to get a good night's rest. That's where MyPillow comes in. They make the best pillows, sheets, mattresses, and mattress toppers. Several years ago, I was having trouble falling and staying asleep due to neck and shoulder pain. Luckily, I heard an ad about MyPillow and decided to give it a try. After 3 or 4 days, I really began to feel a difference. I was sleeping better and my neck and shoulders felt so much better. MyPillow really does help you fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer. Moms on a Mission wants you to get a great night's rest too. Go to mypillow.com right now and use the promo code MISSION for up to 66% off your purchase. MyPillow products are made in America and have a 60-day money-back guarantee and lifetime warranty. Remember, go to mypillow.com, put in the special code MISSION for your special Moms on a Mission discount. Thank you and God bless.
Hey guys, it's Moms on a Mission here. Are you worried about your financial stability and protecting the money for which you worked so hard? The problem is stock market volatility and inflation. You may be wondering what you can do to preserve your family's wealth. We at Moms on a Mission encourage you to reach out to our friend Andrew Sorcini with Beverly Hills Precious Metals. Andrew is the expert in educating you to help you find the right balance of gold and silver for your family portfolio. He made it so easy for me to add precious metals to my financial investments. I simply mailed a check to Beverly Hills Precious Metals and my silver showed up on my doorstep a few days later. It was so easy. Go to bh-pm.com to save a little money and tell them that Moms on a Mission sent you. That's bh-pm.com. Don't wait. Protect your wealth today by going to bh-pm.com and tell them that Moms on a Mission sent you.